Alright, so I'm sure you've been hearing a lot about crypto lately. And yeah, there's a reason for that. But it's not just hype, it's not just price action. What's happening right now is actually kind of sneaky. It's sneakier than most news outlets either realize or are willing to say out loud. Because what we're really witnessing is the quiet battle for global money power, the future of the US dollar dominance. And crypto's just a vehicle for that. Let me break this down in plain English. We're going to talk about stablecoins. We're going to talk about this new crypto law, the one they call the Genius Act, and we're going to talk about what Russia, Iran, Hillary Clinton, and Walmart all have to do with it. So let's start with the basics. What the heck is a stablecoin? If you've ever used crypto or even just watched a video about it, you've probably heard how volatile it is. Bitcoin goes up, then it crashes, Ethereum pumps, then it dumps. It's like a roller coaster. But stablecoins are different. A stablecoin is a type of crypto that stays the same price. It's usually tied to the value of the US dollar. The most well-known one is called USDC. 1 USDC equals to $1, period. So while Bitcoin might jump from 30K to 60K to 100K, USD stays $1. And here's why that matters, because now you've got a way to move money around the world in seconds with blockchain speed, but without the price swings of regular crypto. And that's got big implications. Let's say you're just a regular person buying dinner in Spain using your US Visa card. That transaction needs to somehow exchange value between the US and Spanish economies. How does that work? Through Visa, MasterCard, and the SWIFT system. Every time you swipe that card, Visa or MasterCard take about 2%. And what they're really doing is using legacy banking infrastructure to verify and route your money. Now multiply that by billions in transactions. Walmart alone loses 2% of every card swipe to these middlemen. And what powers that system under the hood is something called SWIFT. It's basically a messaging network banks use to send money internationally. Have you ever sent a wire transfer overseas? You've probably needed a SWIFT code. And here's the thing, SWIFT is old, it's slow, and it's expensive. And it's controlled by Western banks and US interests, which is exactly why it became a weapon. Back in 2012, when Hillary Clinton was the Secretary of State, the US started using SWIFT access as a way to punish other countries. Countries like Iran and Russia were literally kicked out of SWIFT, meaning they couldn't use the global banking system anymore. And that sounds good if you want to sanction those governments, but what happened next was predictable. They started building their own financial networks. Russia and Iran began forming alternatives to SWIFT, because if you're selling oil or natural gas, you still need to get paid. And this is where stablecoins come in. See, the US dollar is the global reserve currency. Roughly 80% of global trade is done in dollars. Even if Chile is selling copper to Australia, they'll probably settle the deal in USD. That means other countries need to hold US dollars. And that gives the United States a kind of superpower, because the whole world is demanding our money. But the minute countries start finding alternatives like stablecoins, it starts to threaten that power. So now enter the Genius Act. This law basically says if you're going to create a dollar-backed stablecoin, you need to back it with actual US treasuries, real US dollars. Why? Because it anchors the stablecoin to American economic policy, and it gives the US government more influence over how digital dollars get used around the world. So instead of fighting crypto, the US is now trying to own the stablecoin game. It's not about Bitcoin, it's not about meme coins, it's about making sure that even when finance goes digital, the dollar stays on top. Here's an example. Let's say Iran wants to sell oil to Russia. They can't use SWIFT since they're sanctioned, but if both countries agree to use a US dollar stablecoin like USDC or Ripple's RLUSD, then they can make the deal without touching SWIFT. And because that stablecoin is backed by US treasuries, it still strengthens the dollar, even if the US government can't block the transaction, so the dollar stays relevant. Now let's zoom out to businesses. Retail giants like Walmart, Target, Amazon, they move billions. If they start accepting or paying out in stablecoins, they could cut out Visa and MasterCard entirely. No more 2% fees, no more waiting days to settle a transaction. Blockchain doesn't sleep, and it doesn't charge you for fraud protection. That's why the stablecoin war is happening right now. Because if the US plays this right, stablecoins could become the next global trade mechanism, replacing SWIFT, replacing Visa, and replacing the need to hold physical USD. But still, all of it being backed by the US government, that's the genius of the Genius Act. And you're not going to hear that on the nightly news, because it's buried in crypto jargon and economic policy. But here's the real takeaway. Crypto isn't just internet money. Stablecoins aren't just boring tokens. This is the future of global finance, and the US is trying to digitally preserve its seat at the top. So yeah, that's why you've been hearing so much about crypto lately. It's not hype, it's geopolitics. And if you want to build wealth in the next few years, you need to understand how the system is evolving, because it's evolving fast. I hope this helped. Make sure you're paying attention, and we'll keep covering this, and I'll catch you in the next one.